All right, welcome back to my video regarding how to do sound check with a band. What I think is really important when you're doing sound check with the band is you want to make sure they're happy with the sound. You want to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things, okay, and be systematic about it. For this video, because I don't have a band here, I'm going to simulate the instruments by plugging the iPod or iPad with some music playing through Pandora into each channel and treating it as though it's a instrument, okay? General setup, when a band gets there, the first thing you want to do is touch base with them. Make sure they know that everything needs to be run through our board. A lot of bands will think they're only playing to this room if they've never played here before. They will operate under the assumption that the amps that they brought it will be loud enough to carry to this room, and they probably would be right about that, except for we want the sound to go into the system so that it can be played to the patio as well as into the bar most of the time. There are one or two exceptions to this. Those are few and far between. But every once in a while, there's a band that is one that you don't want playing. That's good. One that you don't want playing to the whole house. Perfect Crime is an example. They're a band that really only plays to the snug. But even so, in those cases, you'll let the band use their own amps to power to the sound to the room, but you still will run the microphones through the board. Okay. When a band gets set up, you want to let them know to begin by setting their microphones in ports 2 through whatever. If they have 4 mics, 2 through 5. If it's 1, it's just in number 2. I generally preset microphones. If you know how many people are in the band, that's great. If you don't, then set up 2 or 3, and always work geographically. So anything that appears on the left-hand side of the stage when looking at it, you want to be on the left-hand side of the mixer so that it makes sense, so you can logically figure out where they're playing. I set up all microphones first in a row, and then I will try and leave an empty channel, and then have the instruments start going across the board in the same order, okay? I always try and keep tape in there. If you got a lot of instruments, it's tough, a lot of vocals, keep track of it. Just lay a piece of tape across here, and then you can mark each channel what they are in case you forget. Okay, especially early on when you're first getting started, it's probably a good idea to do those sorts of things. I generally will do the microphone, the vocal sound check last. I start with the instruments, okay? And so how I do the instruments is, doesn't matter what order you choose to ask them to play. You can do it in geographic order, or if some of them are ready and some of them aren't, you can simply ask whoever's ready to play. What you want them to do is play at about the loudest level they will play at during the show. So make sure they know that if they're playing at about a 4 and they're going to go up to an 8, you want to make sure that they actually go up to the 8 so that you can get that highest level set, okay? I'm going to simulate that by using the iPad. What you can do when you plug in is make sure that they plug in either an XLR, which is the mic type cable, this one here, or a 1/4 inch, which is the larger headphone type cable. If it's a 1/4 of an inch, you want to make sure it goes into the line input, not the insert. The insert is something you will never use. I mean, it's essentially used if you have some other sort of device that you're going to be running on there, like effects that you're going to be plugging into that one channel. You won't use it, you only use line. Sometimes bands will plug into the wrong spot. If you're not getting sound from that particular channel, that's something to check. Make sure they're plugged in to line, not insert. When you're ready to check the channel, you engage the PFL button and you ask the band to begin playing, okay? When they begin playing, as we are seeing now, we're seeing the lights light up red. You will also see this light light up on the board that lets you know sound is coming through that channel. The PFL is engaged, so this is this channel. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust the gain to where I want it. This is perfect gain level, hitting the yellow lights. not going up much past that first yellow light, occasionally maybe gracing the second yellow light. Pretty sustained. You know, you can maybe come down just a touch, so it's right there at the top of the greens, bottom of the yellows. That lets you know that that's how much you're getting a 0 on the decibel level. That's really perfect. And if you can get every band at that level, you should have an easy time doing the sound. The important thing is to make sure that each instrument hits the same level with the gains. That way when you set your mains, you can set them right at 0 and you know you'll have an even sound mix, okay? So they're gonna want, oh, you know, I want more monitors, I want less monitors while you're adjusting that. First get the gains set. Don't even worry about the monitors until after the gain is set. On this channel, I have the low cut engaged. I'm going to keep that engaged unless I'm connecting a bass or something along those lines, kick drum or something like that, okay? EQ straight up and down on all instruments with a few exceptions. The exceptions would be instruments that are running directly through the board, where they're not running it through a pedal or an amp or anything. They're just plugging in or miking an instrument, an acoustic instrument like a fiddle. Some of them can be a little high-pitched. Fiddles, mandolins, banjos can be a little high-pitched. In those cases, you might roll a little bit of the highs off. If it's a bass, sometimes I'll boost a little bit of the low to give it a little bit more bassy resonance, okay? But if they're running it through their own board of any sort, their own pedals, then just leave it and let them make the adjustments to the EQ how they want. The next step, once you get your gains set where you want them, where they are just hitting the top of that green light, right there, perfect, you're gonna go ahead and start bringing the monitors up. Okay, we bring the monitors up to a level that they're happy, okay? When they say, yeah, that's good, I can hear myself perfectly, we leave it, okay? We are now done for instruments. We really won't put any reverb on it, okay? Most instruments, we don't put any reverb on it. We've got the monitors set to the level that they're happy with. I'm gonna turn this off so you can hear me. But we've got the monitors set to the level they're happy with, okay? And we can make adjustments on those monitors. And the one thing we're not gonna touch is we're not gonna touch the gain. Once we have the gain set the way we like it, we can adjust the main level, we can adjust the monitor level. We don't mess with the gain, that stays, okay? We move on to the next channel. Okay, we disengage the previous PFL, we engage this PFL, and we then do the same thing. Get our gain set till we're just scraping the bottoms of the yellows. All right, we adjust our EQ so that it is what we want, in most cases straight up and down, 12 o'clock the whole time. And then we ask the band, how about monitors? How's that sound? Many instruments, if they use an amp, on stage, they won't want monitors. Particularly basses don't want monitors. So, you want to give me a minute?
Yeah.
Is it important? Because I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Then, after we finished setting up all the instruments, as far as drums, I don't usually do anything to drums. Sometimes you can mic the kick drum. If you're playing for a festival, you might want to hang a mic over top near the snare so it kind of picks up all of their drums. But you can certainly, in this place, most of the drums will be picked up through all the other microphones. When it comes to doing microphone checks, you really want them to sing. It makes it a lot easier so you can really hear their volume. So check, check, check. I'm not going to sing because that's ridiculous, but you want to turn that up till it hits about the 0. Okay, you know, a little bit more volume would probably be good. Now, a lot of times if they're just talking like this, you can assume that they're going to be a little louder when they sing. So you set it up like this, and then you can adjust the monitors up or down as you need. This is where you put the reverb on, but you can't hear the reverb until I start engaging it into the mains, and then you'll start hearing the reverb come in quite a bit more. Okay? Once you have the vocals set at the level you want, all the channels go up to a 0. Okay? Any channel that has a band, has an instrument or a vocal on it, you set it at 0. Okay? At this point, I then make sure don't engage the PFL, take that off, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll look for the band to do a set, a very brief like chorus of a song. Do a minute or two together. While they're doing that, I will go through and check each PFL and just make sure we're hitting that sweet spot of the 0. Okay, make sure that they're happy with the way their monitor levels mix together, because if you don't have them do a minute together, then what'll happen is their monitors might sound good to them individually, but then when they start playing together, it'll not be good. And then once you do that, and if everything's set at 0, you should be good. Sometimes you'll need to make adjustments after you get the sound set. Then you want to walk around through the pub, listen at each speaker, and make sure that the volume that you have it set at is appropriate and that you can hear the mix well. This room will always sound a little different than the other rooms because the amps and the person is actually there, plus you're hearing the monitor mix echoing through this room, but it'll sound a little different everywhere else. It's important to adjust. Your adjustments will be noticed more out there. Any adjustments you make here will be noticed more out there than they will be in the room, because the amps are making up for any changing you're doing, things like that. Okay. If you do get feedback issues, right? If you crank that gain up there and you start getting that kind of feedback, you want to either bring that back down, or if your monitors get too high, you want to bring those back down. And sometimes if you're still getting feedback at an appropriate level, which will happen, especially with like bluegrass bands with a lot of instruments and microphones on stage, you're going to want to adjust that EQ and find the frequency that's causing the trouble and try and take that out of there. Okay, you can tell this is high-end, tinny sort of reverb here. So by bringing down some of the higher ends, you can control some of that feedback, so it's a little better now. That's about it. If you have any questions, you're always free to give me a call, but this should be a pretty basic tutorial of how to adjust your sound for most bands. So thank you for paying attention.